Everyone for joining us. My name is Christian Maraglia. I'm the Applications Engineering Manager at Fujipoly America's Customer Engineering Resource Center. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this webinar. It's always a great opportunity to have some time with our customer to discuss different applications and products. Through the years, we found these webinars to be very useful for us and for our customers because we were able to share a lot of new concepts and be able to solve problems or try to solve problems for our customers and then share that information. So thanks again to everyone for joining us, and thanks for Global Spec for hosting us. So in this webinar, we'll be introducing two new products to our Fujipoly product line. The first product is the G1S20488. It's our anti-thermal propagation insulating sponge. We'll also be introducing our G1S20360 Anti-Fire Propagation Silicone Rubber. For most of you, if you're very familiar with Fujipoly, I'm sure you know we're specialized in thermal management, but these products are quite different. We're best known for our thermal gap filler products. So those products are really designed to be high conductivity materials to transfer heat from heat sources such as electronic components or batteries to heat sinks and heat exchangers. These two new products are quite different. In one case, you can say we're doing quite the opposite. We're actually trying to insulate heat from transferring from a heat source to anywhere else. The G1S20488 is designed to provide heat insulation at very high temperature, 450 C and above actually. This product has been developed for battery applications where thermal propagation from cells needs to be managed. The G1S20488 also provides shock absorption reduction and reduces the risk of damage through mechanical shock. So it actually serves two purposes there. The second product we'll be discussing today is our G1S20360, which is our anti-fire propagation silicone material. The silicone compound is designed to seal for seals or vents where you want to maintain some kind of structural integrity and avoid the propagation of the flame outside of the battery pack or some other type of enclosure. The family of product is quite different than the standard thermal management materials we're known for. So a lot of the questions we get is, why did you develop these thermally insulating materials? The obvious answer is customers ask for it. We've established relationships over the years with many customers that know Fujipoly has the capability to develop materials specially suited for specific applications. In recent years, we have seen more requests from customers to help solve solutions for battery applications. So a lot of that push is coming from companies that are working with batteries, either integrators or their battery manufacturers themselves. So we have a lot of experience in tin materials for transferring heat from battery cells, but we wanted to address other needs for battery pack designers and integrators. So our expertise in silicone polymers, as well as forming, meaning, extruding, molding, and laminating, allow us to provide a lot of novel solutions to manage other types of thermal management issues besides just transferring heat from an enclosure to a battery cell out to some sort of a heat sink. G1S20488 anti-thermal propagation insulating sponge is actually a composite material. It's not just one material alone. It's actually made up of two insulating materials on the outer layer and then a high temperature silicone rubber sponge in the middle. Now, these materials are designed to be basically a thermal barrier between a heat source where you don't want to transfer a lot of heat through. These materials are highly conformable, so they're designed to operate at very high temperatures and again allow for battery swelling and allow for any type of movement of the battery as well. So this is one of the key requirements again that we're getting from our customers. So on this screen you can see some of the general properties of the material. One of them is probably a little more obvious for customers that are really concerned about weight. So if you're trying to keep the weight of that battery pack down, things like the apparent density of the materials are going to be very important. For the G1S20488, the density of that material is about 349 kilograms per cubic meter. So the material is not, there are lighter materials out there, but this material is relatively light compared to something that's a lot denser out there. Elongation may not be a big interest for a lot of customers because the material is typically not used in this fashion, but it's about 2.7. So we don't get a lot of elongation out of this material. It's fairly rigid material. Again, it's a sponge material. It's not designed to be pulled on or in any way stressed in that fashion. So, but the information is there in case anyone has any interest in there. Things like tensile strength, again, may not be a big requirement for customers, about 0.33 megapascals. Another mechanical property that may be more of interest is something like tear strength. And the tear strength there is at 1.6 newtons per millimeter. And lastly, on his screen, you see something called compressive residual strain, something more along the line of something that looks like compression set. And again, it's a nice elastic sponge. So it's very small, only about 1.3%. So you're going to get a lot of bounce back in this material. Sponge material is really designed not just to insulate heat, it's designed to actually absorb some shock, and it's also designed to be conforming. This is a very important quality as well. If you're going to be creating like an interference fit where you're going to be forcing this material between battery cells or between battery cells and an outside wall, or if you're just dealing with variations in geometry, the material's ability to conform to that is very important. So what you see on the screen right now is a compression force and compression ratio graph. Gives you an idea of how soft this material is over a range of compression. Now for this specific formulation, you can see that's a fairly linear stress strain curve till about 60%, a little bit below that, about 55%. And then suddenly you get a fairly high response. The material starts to harden up quite a bit. Now we do have the ability to formulate these materials to match whatever requirement is needed for the application. So this is just a quick snapshot of the current material that's available, but we can modify that quite a bit. Now in this example, the material is about 3.8 millimeters thick. Because the material is a sponge, unlike if you're out there, if you're used to using like thermal interface materials that are compressed, those materials typically actually don't compress. What they do is that they'll flow. This being a sponge material, you don't have to worry about that. You're just evacuating a lot of the air that's in that sponge. So the compression is a little bit different. But again, we can accommodate different requirements. In some cases, customers want to have almost like a hard stop. So in this case, this material is designed to act as a hard stop about 70%, but we can move that hard stop left and right if you need it, and that linear portion from about 0 to 60%, that can also be changed depending on the customer's requirement. For us to characterize this material at very high temperatures was a little tricky. Most thermal interface materials testers are not designed to work at high temperature. So the goal, or for us to really characterize this material, is to really get what's the thermal resistance of this material, but specifically what the thermal resistance of this material is at very high temperature. Again, most thermal interface material testers that we have here in-house or that we have at our technical center are really designed for testing materials that are going to be operating closer to temperatures where you're going to be working with semiconductors. So a lot of these testers rarely go higher than 60 degrees C on the hot side. Because this material is designed to operate at very high temperature, hundreds of degrees Celsius, your standard thermal interface material tester just isn't going to work. So one of the things we did at our technical center is actually develop sort of a thermal interface material tester to qualify this material, validate this material, its performance at very high temperatures. So we're going to look at a video of this equipment in operation, and we'll know actually how this material actually performs once you get up to really high temperatures. So on the screen here, you see our homemade, as you can say, thermal interface material tester designed for really high temperature. Now again, the tester is designed to operate or give us a thermal resistance or a thermal gradient at least at very high temperatures. In this case, we're taking the material to about 450 degrees Celsius. Again, it's not something that you're going to find in a standard thermal interface tester. The variables here again are compression. So what we're doing is we're actually heating one side up to about 450 C, and then we're checking the temperature gradient. But we're also doing that as well at different compression. So we're doing these at very low compression, something low as 20%, and then at much higher compressions. And what we're doing is we're taking observations of what those thermal gradients are on the hot and the cold side. You can see the results of that testing. And there's also a nice block diagram. Sometimes looking at the whole system is a little overwhelming, but the block diagram on the bottom right gives you an idea of how we do this. So it's not really much different than you'd see with an ASTM type tester, where you have a heat source and then a cold side, and then we measure temperatures across there. We're doing the same thing here. The challenge here with getting an accurate thermal resistance value, again, is that you're running a heat source at 450 C. So things like heat loss and ensuring that you're getting that heat flux through that material, and that's what you're calculating, is going to be challenging. But it still gives us a pretty good idea. There's not a lot of equipment out there that can measure thermal resistance at these temperatures. So it still gives us a very good idea of how this material is going to operate. You can see the bottom line on the graph here, which is our 20% compression measurements. Again, we're running the hot side about 450 C, and you can see we're keeping that at about something about close to 80, a little under 80 C. So pretty good temperature gradient there. We're talking about 380, close to 370 degree difference between the hot side and the cold side. And as you can see, as we increase the compression, of course, that's going to change, right? We're reducing that distance between the heat source and the cold side. We're also evacuating a lot of that air as we start to really compress that sponge. So you start to get basically what amounts to a reduction in that thermal resistance. So you can see once we get up to 50% compression, we're a little bit over 100 C. And then once you really start to compress this material down, about 70 C, which is really the maximum compression that this material will bottom out at, you can see we're somewhere about 130 degrees Celsius. So still a pretty good thermal resistance between the hot side and the cold side, even at some of the higher percent compression. So it's doing a fairly good job of really keeping that heat down. 450 C is a fairly high temperature. When you talk about battery failure, you may not be reaching quite up there, but still gives you a good leeway there, good space there between actually going into thermal runaway. One of the other things to note is the transient response of this material. So you can see we really don't reach that equilibrium till about 600 seconds, about 10 minutes. So having that transient response, being able to have a little bit of time there between the beginning of a failure and actually being able to take some countermeasures is also a big advantage with this material. Measuring accurate thermal resistance with a lot of these testers can be a challenge because of heat loss when you're running a hot side temperature that's hundreds of degrees Celsius. So the chance of getting heat loss can definitely really impact how accurate your measurements are. But we tried our best to try to come up with some kind of a value, at least early on. And you can see those on the screen. But depending again on the compression value, you're going to end up with a different number. So the more you compress the material, obviously you're going to change that. Now at 20%, at some of the compression ranges, again, from 20 to 70, the thermal conductivity ranges from about 0.121 to about 0.153. So fairly high resistance material. So again, with that and the transient response of the material, we believe it's a very good candidate material for insulating batteries or other types of heat sources. The second material we will be introducing today is our G1S20360. This is our anti-flame propagation silicone rubber. So it's quite unique from our previous product. This product is actually designed to be exposed to flames, or at least designed to counter that. It is an anti-flame propagation silicone material. So that being said, you can actually form this silicone compound into different shapes, things like seals or vents. So that's one of the great things about it. What makes it unique is that it's designed to maintain its integrity, not cracking. So what happens with silicone, typically when you expose it to a flame, very high temperatures like that, the silicone's actually going to start to crack and it's going to break up and its bench is going to basically become dust. So with this silicone, it's actually designed to not do that. It's going to basically solidify, but again, most importantly, keep its structural integrity. So if you're trying to keep flames in or try to keep flames out, this material is a great candidate material for, again, for making seals or vents or anything that's going to be part of the housing. Silicone rubber, and we talk about anti-flame propagation or anything that has to do with exposing a material to an open flame. It's important to distinguish anti-flame propagation versus ULV0. So ULV0 does not necessarily mean that the material is flame resistant. ULV0 means the material will extinguish when the flame is removed, but it doesn't mean that the material should be exposed to flame or is designed to be exposed to flame. Again, even if a material is ULV0 and it doesn't hold a flame, after some time the material will certainly start to break up, basically becomes dust over a period of time. So again, even though something is ULV 0, which a lot of our materials, basically all our materials, our thermal materials are ULV 0, that doesn't mean that you should expose them to a flame, nor will they stand up to a flame. G1S20360 again is designed to be exposed to flame, or not something obviously you want to do, but in the case that you do have a catastrophic failure, the G1S20360 is designed to maintain some kind of structural integrity. So the picture on the right gives you an idea of what these materials are going to do. So you could see the material on the left is a general purpose silicone rubber. And you can see after exposing it to flame, it easily cracks. In fact, in most cases, this is actually one that doesn't look so bad. The materials basically will become dust. When you look at the material on the right, this is actually our G1S20360. This material is actually going to solidify. So it's going to go from an elastomer to a very hard, almost like a hard ceramic material. But the important thing is that it's not going to break. So it's going to maintain its integrity and keep flames from coming in or out. And hopefully, depending on the design, will actually keep air from coming in and out as well. So you're not going to have a situation where you're actually feeding the flame inside the enclosure. So the G1S20360 being a silicone, it's going to have a lot of the typical properties that you would see with a silicone rubber. Things like specific gravity is about 1.47, which is in line with most silicones, at least silicones that aren't loaded with things like electrical or thermally conductive fillers. In this case, the thermal conductivity of this material is about 0.44, so not a high conductivity material. Hardness is a 72. The elongation on this material is about 178%, so it is a nice, still very much an elastomer. Tensile strength 6.1 megapascals, tear strength about 10.1. Volume resistivity, it is an insulating material, so 3 times 10 to the 15th ohm centimeter. Good breakdown voltage, comes in at 27 kilovolts per millimeter, and a dielectric strength of 24 kilovolts. Both of these materials are available in different form factors. They are used differently. So they are going to be available in different forms. The G1S20488, which is our anti-thermal propagation insulating sponge, is available in sheet form only at this time. The thicknesses range from 2.1 millimeter to 5 millimeters. It can be die cut or cut to shape, really depending on the application. So a lot of converters out there, if you are used to working with things like sound dampening materials that are sponge, not much different cutting this material than it is cutting those materials. So it's a very easy material to work with. At this time, it's only available in sheets, but we are working on getting them in roll form. The G1S20360 anti-flame propagation silicone is also available in sheet form, but one of the pluses is that it can be molded and extruded into various profiles. So this is really helpful if you're working on designing vents or seals, and you need a certain geometry. This material definitely lends itself to that. It is available in sheet form as well. So if you're looking to die cut, to keep things very simple, just want to die cut, this material is available in sheets as well. As far as sample availability, we do have samples of both the G1S20488 anti-thermal propagation sponge, as well as the G1S20360 anti-flame propagation material. So if there is any interest in sampling some of those materials, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to get you a sample. Of course, if you have any specific requirements that you'd like to talk to us about, we'd be more than happy to go over your application and see if we can help you out. Thanks again for everyone for attending this webinar. If you would like more information on either of those products, you can reach out to us at info@fujipoly.com. You can also visit our website at www.fujipoly.com. You can actually access our different sales locations. So if you'd like to talk to a salesperson in your specific location, you can see that there. Again, if you want to speak to someone here in North America, you can reach us at info@fujipoly.com. That covers both our Customer Engineering Resource Center as well as our sales offices in New Jersey. Thank you again for attending.